Hey, Anya.
Hello.
How's it been this week? Woo!
Hello. I'm excited this week. I've got some exciting news. I've got a house, so I'm finally going to be
Yeah,
moving on
I love it.
Friday. It's the update I've been waiting for about a year, so I'm very
Yeah,
excited.
I heard that. I
Moving
was
in.
like, get it.
I know. I've
What was
really
the
been so
process?
excited. Progress, like you say, moving forward. And
Yeah,
funny,
yeah,
'cause
yeah.
last week we was talking about actionable steps
Uh-huh.
and creating actionable steps, and I feel
Yep.
like
Yep.
if you are in tune with this frequency and you are surrendering to all the left, which, whites, little ways exposure, left, right, exposure, then you really can take actionable steps and like make actionable change at this time. Not saying everything's down to that, some things just fall in divine timing, but I do think it's like a power. Someone said this next year is like a flaming dragon or a flaming bull, I don't know, something like that. Like it's something flaming horse, that were it. A
A
flaming
flaming
horse. So
horse.
it's like
Okay.
charging horse and like that's what the year represents coming into 2026. I think this year was snake shedding the skin, which makes a lot of sense because we've shed so much this year.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. It was charging horse, not a fucking bull.
I'm
You
like,
got me.
dang, is that what we're heading into?
Yeah, no, a horse. So which again, a horse can be elegant, beautiful, but like flaming, charging, I guess that is like fast movement. And when I've read tarot for years, and when you look at the knights are always something coming in fast.
Right.
Something charging in fast, fast changing, fast progression, fast movement. That's always what horses and knights on horses represent. It's that fast charge movement. So if that is so, that we're moving into the fast-paced year of the horse, I think that is very aligned with the energy we're picking up on now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't heard of that, but that makes sense to me.
To be fair, it's not mine. Someone on my Tuesday night group, it was Rachel or Caroline, someone last week or the week before mentioned it, and I just came in resonance then because I remember them saying like maybe that's where all this action energy is coming from, and I totally relate to that because it's the sense of we're having this charge within us. Like you guys know, I've mentioned it on here. I've been talking to Z for a long time. Like I've been wanting to move. I'm not happy where I am. There's been all this stress, drama, blah, 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 blah. And yet it's only felt physically tangible to do since I've shifted my internal frequency.
Yep.
And like that's what we wanted to talk a little bit about tonight. And do excuse my dad, he's having his own personal rave. I try and tell him, but look, it's what it is. It's where I get my musical love from. So you just have to ignore the little rave downstairs.
I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, going on back to what we were saying, I guess a good place to start tonight is the concept of manifestation. Like,
Yeah.
what does
Yep.
manifestation mean to you? It's a word that's been thrown around, let's face it, for a long, long time,
Everywhere. Yep.
everywhere. And just manifest it, create your own reality. We all create our own reality. And don't get me wrong, I've thrown that word around a long time throughout the years. And I did and do have a core understanding of what that means to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet that's molded and shifted and changed and adapted and expanded
Sure.
so many times throughout the years. So I guess that's a great place to start for everyone. And when you ask yourself at home as well, like what does right now in this current moment, what does manifestation mean to you? How would you define it? What does it feel like in your body when you say it? Like what is the energy that's coming up? Like what do you get Z from that word?
I mean, right off the bat, I mean, my prior manifestation to my now manifestation is completely different.
That's a good like let's hear both. Let's hear the
Like
comparison.
I mean, prior I didn't throw that word around a lot, but it was like, I'm gonna put a vision board up and it's gonna come into my reality, right?
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
similar like that. Like
Mhm.
I'm gonna
Oh, we've all been there.
yeah, like I'm visualizing it's coming in right now. Definitely not the case with where I'm at right now. Manifestation is can I walk my talk? Can I do the actions with it? Can I calm my nervous system down enough to actually receive that? And can I take these tiny little steps that I need in order to allow that to come in?
Love that, love that. And I love the comparison. I mean, I've got vision boards from at least 10 years ago, and some of the shit on there, what the heck? But some of the shit on there is actually only coming to fruition now, 10 years later. And
Yeah.
so,
Oh yeah.
like you say, it is a case of divine timing and all these other things. And I guess I did throw that word around a little bit, not in a bad way, in a good way, but when I started tarot card reading, I did a few other courses and I did one on the I am, the sense of embodiment of a manifestation. And that helped a lot, especially in like I was only about 18 when I did that. So it definitely helped create like a fundamental alternative thought process, in my brain, which was wonderful. But I definitely wasn't embodying it on a deep, deep level, until recently. And that's what's changed for me. And that's how I'd say is the biggest change is actual embodiment rather than
Yep.
creation is a part of it. Don't get me wrong. Visualization is a part of it. Feeling all the different energies is a part of it. But embodiment is the key fat part of it. And I think that's what
Yep.
I've
Agreed.
learned and that's what I've gained over the past few years is actually embodying the frequency I want to create and visualize and live is I have to feel it inside. It has to be a
Totally.
frequency I can attain internally to be able to attain it externally, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Totally anchored in the body, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotta be fully through there. And there's lots of layers and depths to that to get into
Yeah.
that point. Because my manifestations, yeah, about 10 years ago, I'd say the same thing, are definitely coming into fruition now. And I'm like, that makes sense that it took that timing for my body to run through what it needed to deprogram the crap, to work through some of my processes that were super deep, to a lot of self-realization and understanding what I did want versus what I didn't want.
Yeah, no, exactly that. You have to excuse me. I was just texting my dad to stop doing fucking karaoke while I'm online. I was like, please, just like, I don't mind a little bit of the music, but please chill the fuck out because it's a little bit loud. So, yeah, but I loved what you were saying about the nervous system, though. I think that's truly important because that's part of the embodiment piece. Like, and let's break it down into simple terms because I know sometimes when you hear all these terms and you're new to either spirituality or this layer of spirituality, it can be a bit like, I don't understand that because it's too many words. But let's just simplify it for a second because I know I would have wanted it simplified when I was first grasping this concept. It's more a case of I always like the analogy of a video game because I think it's attainable for a lot of people in my age group as well, because a lot of them play video games or have played video games. And if you're choosing your character, so you are creating everything about this character, where this character lives, who this character engages with, what choices this character makes, what it does for work, how it lives its life, everything. You, as the player with the control, are deciding what this character does. And that is, in essence, the same experience we're having as a spiritual being living a human experience. Now, you'll hear them words thrown around a lot, but simply
Yep.
put, it's having conscious awareness whilst living in a human body. Now, that's the bit we all forgot. Like, we all forgot we had hold of the remote and we all just kind of went, "Mm,
Yep.
why is
Yep.
this happening to us? Like, why am my character not working? Like, and man, we chose this shit. Like, that's what we forgot. And we subconsciously choose this stuff by our programs, by
Totally.
what our body, mind, and soul has learned throughout our upbringings, throughout our past lives, throughout our collective experience as a soul and as a human being, both of them combined, right? And so when we're wanting to move forward, wanting to get a new house, wanting to get a different job, wanting to feel happier, wanting to not be ill anymore, we have to look at, okay, yes, the external matters. What food are we consuming? Who are we choosing to be around? All them external things
Totally.
and toxin exposure, like, yeah, obviously look there first. Again, that's on the physical body level. But then if we're looking at the mental and spiritual levels, it's looking at what thought programs, what beliefs, what choices are we subconsciously choosing that are creating the reality that we live in. Now, again, if you grew up in quite a argumentative, conflictual household, you might not be intentionally going out there and searching that in a partner, but your nervous system, your body has learned to find familiarity and comfort
Totally.
in that environment because it got used to it for 18 years or whatever it was. So you
Right.
know how to prepare against that. Your body actually finds unconditional kindness and niceness from a man or woman unfamiliar, unpredictable, unknown. It's
Yep.
not used to that because it's never experienced that
Totally.
without it coming with either malicious intent, manipulation, etc. So
Yep.
your internal self goes, okay, I need to look for what I'm used to, what I can keep myself safe against. And
Yep.
so it finds what's familiar, it finds what's connective on what it knows how to keep itself safe against. And so that's our job as the person holding the remote control to then go, hang on a minute, I don't want to choose to keep bringing them patterns in. And
No.
that's where the magic happens. That's where
Exactly.
the change happens. And so when we're talking about nervous system or creating your own reality, visualization, yeah, all of that is important, like every single part of it. But I guess they're being able to recognize what you're choosing and why you're choosing it is the key factor to not choosing it anymore and not creating it in the continuous cycle we're in. But there definitely is, like, and I mean this with no disrespect, but before my nana passed, when I was speaking to her about things, there's like certain patterns and programs that some people are so ingrained in that no matter how many workshops or programs you did, like they're not letting them go. And you
Yeah.
do have to know when to choose, like when to speak, like when someone's on about someone passing or someone on about this tragedy. I know in my mind that their soul most likely chose that. But that's not the best time for me as a human to go, oh yeah, well they chose that, because I still on a human level recognize the tragedy of it, the
Yep.
guilt, the
Of
grief, the
course.
sadness.
Of course.
They coexist, as we've said before. Yeah, so I think that I don't want to take all the time, but yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to add
Yeah.
in for my journey, was figuring out that this is not an external thing. It's not about creating anything externally other than a more sacred environment and choices that what you're choosing to be around, but it is an internal frequency attainable thing which you have to recognize. Okay, what choices are we choosing that are making us not stable internally, to get rid of them to
Yep.
then create new ones. It is choice, unfortunately.
It is choice. And it takes, I would say from my perspective, the time to slow everything down, to
Mhm.
recognize, observe, stop yourself and say like, no, I'm gonna make another choice here. And that takes years sometimes in the human body. Um,
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I feel the same thing. I mean, I have a picture of my inner child with a video game controller that I have worked with over the last several months. Is just like, take the controller back, girl. Just take
That's
it
so
back.
good.
Here's another button. We got it.
Nice.
You can choose something different here. And that's like why I also created the platform I did in a gaming type version, because it's kind of easier for me, at least for me, my perspective, to view it that way. This is a game. I want to take my power back. What am I choosing? How am I walking this? And in an embodiment sense, I want to say it's taken me a good period of time to shift, like you said, into a space that felt good for you. It took some time. It took me a long time
Right.
to deprogram my stuff, to slow myself down, to be like, no, I don't want this in relationship. I don't want this pattern here anymore. What am I going to do about that? What resources am I going to do? What support do I need in the space with that?
Yeah.
Um, and what am I gonna do? Like you talked a little bit about money earlier,
Hmm.
and concepts around money and perspective around money. And I can say from my perspective, like I've definitely thrown money away to be in alignment, right, with myself, with nobody else but myself. And I'm like, I did that. It wasn't alignment. I'm gonna let that go.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I've had to let it go. But now I'm in my own space that I absolutely love, like absolutely love. It took me a long time to get into that, thinking that I deserved it, deprogramming myself, giving myself that room and space, taking the time to be up in the mountains, sitting with myself, looking at what I need to do for my own resonance and programming, and then allowing that to come in with my work, partnership, close relationships. All of
Hmm.
that is now coexisting exactly where I want it to be, because I stopped to take a different choice and shifted my frequency internally, right?
And don't you think it's a real difficult one, because you kind of have to sit with there is no longer any blame.
Yep.
And I think that's where it's like your human has to fucking sit with that one, because
Oh, yeah.
for a long time I think we're like, oh, especially when there is, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there is negative forces at play. We've all experienced them like multiple times. I'm
Yep.
not denying that there is that shit too, but it gets rid of that continuous blame of something else, like attacking you or keeping you
Yep.
down,
Yep.
or like, I don't even like saying the words, but say that people say they're cursed, or like they're trapped in a, they'll never get this, they're in a loop, all these things, and
Of course.
they are self-fulfilling prophecies. They are self-affirming spells, and so I used to say it when I was younger, not in that way, but like, oh, I never win anything. And I recognized when I was like 16, I was like, why do I say
Right.
that? Like, I'm stopping myself from ever actually winning anything by saying that, and I recognized it as a 16-year-old, and I remember changing that up. And that's again actionable choice. And like you say, you brought up what we were talking about just before I came on, and it's no secret I'm not afraid to speak about my, shit that I go through. And money with me has always been like my Achilles heel. I
Uh-huh.
grew up in a very low income area
Uh-huh.
and very low income environment. And a part of me always knew, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just don't seem to feel like I belong in that sense of deprivation and the stress that it brings on your nervous system, being in that fight or flight of panic and fear
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
never having enough. Like I've experienced that for many years. Luckily, I don't have that extreme experience now, but I did for a long time. And I'm definitely still saying I'm just in that survival energy, where you're just like getting through and you're just in the nice,
Sure.
comfortable-ish zone. But I do look around and like I made a choice recently to go to America. Now, didn't necessarily have an over excess of funds to do that. I had enough to do that. But there definitely could have been more sensible, responsible, reasonable things I should have, would have, could have done with that money. But something in my soul told me I needed to go. And my best friend was having a baby, a huge time for her. I remember how it was when I was first time postpartum, and she doesn't really have any family and friends there. So, that was a huge driving force. But also, something just told me I needed to go. Every time I've been to America, I've definitely gained a sense of self and like healing and forgiveness and
Sure.
deeper expansion. And when I was there this time, it made so much room within me, so much more space, so much more rest. And I recognize, those that follow my TikTok will have seen, I recognize that I haven't actually just moved my body intuitively like through yoga and just like moved naturally in about 3 years since becoming pregnant with my first child. And like that was wild, and I'd not even thought about that. Like my brain had not even thought about it until I was sat on the grass and I did it, and I thought, shit, I hadn't done that in 3 years. And it was like a
Yeah. Oh
recognition
yeah.
of
Yep.
all these things that take a back seat when you are in survival mode. It's no secret I had two extremely rough pregnancies with I can't even say it, HG sickness, and then PGP, catwalk, all this shit, and then postpartum is a wild ride. And I feel like for the first time in 3 years, I'm genuinely only just now like breathing fully and
Okay.
exhaling. And that's how long it can sometimes take to shift out of that survival mode. And don't get me wrong, coming back to England, being in the environment, definitely triggering me. But I'm holding on and anchoring in that frequency. And that goes back to what I
Yeah.
was talking about in manifestation. Like, I don't believe I would have been able to come home from America and do all this fast paced change and make the choices and create the change if I didn't have the frequency that I had from going there and that I had from in
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
internally, and the vision and the experience and the routine and the just the physical embodiment, the physical muscle memory of it as well, of like the calm and the peace. And that physical muscle memory is key when you're trying to physically create something into your reality, because you can feel it and
Right.
you can tap into what that felt like and what that feels like in your body in that now moment. And so when you're visualizing, when you're manifesting it, speaking it out in the truth, when you are embodying that energy as a literal truth, you know in your soul that you felt it and you're feeling it, and the universe receives that, your higher self receives that as deep instructions. I literally came home from America and started packing up the house with no house and nothing confirmed. Within a few days, I had a house confirmed at the first viewing I did,
Nice.
and
Nice.
it was like that is divine alignment. When you know and you're in vision, everything's like boom, boom, let's go.
Yep.
But you
Oh,
have to
for
be
sure.
in the embodiment. You have to be able to feel what that feels like to be able to go, okay, that's mine. I know that's mine. And the worthiness, it's like the key to the lock. If you do not believe you are worthy or deserving, you ain't gonna receive it.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Or keep
Huge.
it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it might come, but it'll go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Mm.
that's the process. I appreciate your process and you expressing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I want to go back into spaces where you talked a little bit earlier about coexisting and how that might function in a space and what that looks like, and like how I perceive that in my own body and how I made my own shifts is that I also listened to other people's projections and what they thought. And that was earlier on in the years when I did that. And now separating myself, what I do with my time, my money, um, my own sovereignty is for me to express myself, not for anybody else to directly come in there. That's where the controller take back comes in. And I've definitely had to work with that and coexisting too, because I wanted to move out into closer to a community type of a space so I can start to work maybe this coexisting piece. Um, it was a big risk and it was really rough a little bit at first in certain spaces, and I definitely figured out who I could coexist with and who I couldn't. What groups that I could be a part of and what wasn't authentic to me. And it was quite a big leap with that. And also understanding too that I want to respect everybody's perspective in here. Yours, everybody else who's here watching this, y'all have your own perspectives and how you're working things, and I highly respect that. And also, like, if you were to say, like, I'm going to go on this massive whatever it is trip, I'd be like, go get it. If that's what you need to do for yourself in the moment, to align yourself to whatever, like, follow that journey. Could it be a risk? Sure. But we're not going to go anywhere if we don't risk it.
And we're not going to live. Really,
No.
like that's the true thing. Like, yeah, sure, I could have put a deposit down on a house maybe, but what was the point? Sat there miserable in the house, not feeling like I've actually lived, not feeling like I've even seen the fucking sun this year. Like that's 5, 6 weeks in the sunshine.
Yeah.
I can't tell you what it does for my soul because we're so deprived of it in the UK. I act like we're from the Eskimo village, but legit, I feel like it sometimes.
Yeah.
So real.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I need the sun, and it just reaffirms like well, how we live here,
Yep.
that's not the only way of living. You do not have to live like this forever. Like, and that is a
Right.
big thing when everyone around me, bless him, and I have so much love for him, and there's nothing but love coming from my heart, but there is so much fear and so much like, what do you mean you got what? What do you mean? Like, why would you do that? Like, same thing with my pregnancies. I've experienced it all
Yep.
the time.
Yep.
I think my choices just scare the shit out of everyone until I do it, and I'm like, oh yeah, right, and it's it. I do have a deep trust in self, and I do have a deep trust that if I've been shown this message, then I've got to follow through on it because that's where I'm guided. It was the same thing when I was invited to the Moroccan desert 10 days before. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know where I was going, and I flew out to Morocco with no idea who I was meeting and where I was going to end up. But
Yeah.
here we are now, and that was the whole point. Like the divine trust, that trip changed my life, and that trip showed me I can do this too. And then I literally ran a retreat from nothing in Spain the next year on my own, and I smashed it. And I did incredible. Not literally, I had a great team, but I planned it and executed it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then we did the New Earth Gathering, fantastic, incredible. Like, and they just keep getting better. And so I know now that again when I'm planning this next retreat with all you guys, the embodiment that we have now from doing the past few retreats, from experiencing that energy,
Yep.
and also the self-worth I've gained to know that like when I first started doing this, I felt a bit like I know what I bring is magical, but is it worth that money? Because I'm so used to being in a poverty
Sure.
environment. It was
Sure.
like,
Sure.
is that worth that? Like, are people going to pay that? Because especially where I'm from, like there would not be that accessibility to that, in this
Yep.
local vicinity.
Yep. Yep.
So it was a big fear thing, and I again had to choose to deprogram that, to let go of that experience and that
Yep.
program that I'd adopted in my
Yep.
environment, in my experience of growing up here. I had adapted that to my own views and my own beliefs and my own programs, and so I had to literally choose to shed that. And I'd say there's still about 5% remaining, but I've shedded most of it. But there's that twings up every now and then of, oh, is this something, imposter syndrome, I call it, are people real? And then I remember every person that's been on any of our retreats has said that was absolutely life changing. And so that's what I have to remember when I'm channeling it in is people are not paying to go on holiday. You can pay to go on holiday whenever you want. You're
Sure.
paying to have an experience
Yep.
that will change you from within, and it
Totally.
will ignite something, and it will bring you alive in some way because my
Absolutely.
aim specifically, and I know your aim, is to reflect back that power that you hold, but are
Totally.
just not, connecting with at that current time. And so that's
Right.
that's
Right.
our
Right.
role. And yeah, I don't even know how we got into retreat. I think it was the sense of trusting in the fear, that
It's yes, it's that
surrendering.
fear
Yeah,
perspective that does come in with that piece.
it does.
I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on a retreat or a program. I will be
Right.
honest with you, it was the right space for me to be, and it could have, in some of these places, I just needed one piece of that to change my life.
Right. Yeah,
And I
yeah,
would
yeah.
have paid anything for that one piece. Next step. Yeah, that got me there.
Right, that's the next chapter in the
Next
level.
step.
And like, this is what I've come to realize, and how hilarious that because of my, let's call it poverty mindset, that sounds awful, but let's fucking call it what it is. In the past, because I had that, I never would have felt like, again, I am that person from my area that I believe will not pay the money for a retreat because I would have never had that accessibility to pay that. And I remember seeing Mark Atwood's retreat to Morocco in like April. And I remember thinking, fuck me, I'd love to go to that. I'd love to go there
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and like, oh, I could never afford that. It was like 3 grand or something. I remember thinking, oh, fuck me, that'd be like at that time to me that money was just I was living paycheck to paycheck, and so that would have been like in no way would I have been able to afford that. And so part of me ruled it off, but then part of me thought like I just kept seeing myself there, stood in the desert and like being a part of it. And
For
but
sure.
really, truly, it wasn't intentional. There was not one part of me that felt like, oh, I'm going to manifest it, I'm going to create it, I'm going to like, I'm not going to lie to you. Not one part of me did that. I thought, wouldn't it be nice? I can't afford it. I literally shut my laptop down and was like, yeah, in another life, bitch. And then I just moved on with life. And then I remember it was late July. I just had this inkling. Felt like I needed to email Mark just to talk to him, just to like, maybe go on the show and communicate because I felt like there was such a lack of representation of younger. At that time, I was like 25, and it
Yeah,
was like, I felt like the younger people really wasn't connected into this public community
of
awakening,
course.
and I was like,
Yeah.
let's get involved a little bit. Let's not be afraid. And like I said, 2 weeks before he emailed me back and like, let's go on the show. Then it was, do you want to come to Morocco or Manchester? And it just, and I never would have ever thought that was to come from one email. Like that was not my intention. And I think my point is, we can't force it. You can't say, oh, I'm going to manifest it and I'm going to create it this way and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. That's trying to micromanage it and control it. I did not do that. I did not have a fucking clue that that would happen. It was simply, I'd like to message him about talking to him and connecting him with younger people. That was, I remember the email. It was all about how I don't think younger people are involved in the awakening that much. And that was it. And so that was my intention, to put it out there and connect. And to put
Right.
it out there and connect, let the rest of it just do its flow and put me
For sure.
exactly where I needed to be. And not just me, like my best friend's child, who she's just had, little baby Beatrice, would not exist if I did not go on that trip, because I met Madeline and Madeline met Laurie and then Laurie met her son. They got married and now have a baby. And I would have never met this woman in America, and my friend would have never gone to America and met her husband and moved there if
Totally.
I'd not gone to the desert. So everything is specifically divinely timed and aligned. But manifestation is not about forcing the puzzle piece in, it's about choosing how you want to feel
Yep.
rather than what you want to create.
Yep. And a moment to moment basis, right? Things shift very quickly. So it's constantly, I'm going to add that word surrender into that next moment. Okay, what am I feeling in this moment? How do I want to make that choice with this? And continuing up with that alignment phase and embodying. And I go with embodying versus manifestation now.
Right, right, yeah.
Okay, look, I'm feeling into what I really want to feel to bring in to my story. I'm gonna feel it, that I'm gonna walk it, that I'm gonna risk. I'm gonna take those risks and action steps. Like you said, just messaging him made that, right?
Yeah,
It can only
right.
take one small step for you to
Mhm.
get all those things coming in.
Yeah.
And that's all it needs. But it does mean I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to feel into it. I'm going to take the right action step. Uh, I've had many synchronicities, if you want to call them that, and things happen just from one tiny action step because I was like, well, I'm not going to get there from here. I'm going to maybe shoot an email. We don't know.
Mhm.
Going to see where it goes.
Mhm.
That one tiny step, like, led me to the next step, right? And it's a continuous process from there.
Yeah, yeah. And I loved what you said about paying any amount of money for that next step. Like that to me is so important because in my mind, my higher self knew that bitch ain't gonna pay no money. Like she was like, she is too tight and too poverty consciousness to ever pay and even think she could afford to have that money come in to then put it out, even if I'd have had a random influx of £3,000, I wouldn't have felt like I could have spent it on that because of how much lack I was in. So it
Sure.
wouldn't have felt like an option to be able to invest in myself. So my higher self knew for her to go on this adventure, it has to be as a facilitator because she would not, it was worthiness. I would not believe I was worthy of receiving. And also, it was a huge thing for me to facilitate because that taught me so many lessons. So, all part of it,
Absolutely.
but it was
Absolutely.
all part of the whole process. But definitely funny how the higher self works in knowing that those puzzle pieces, I would literally now, if once I know what I know, pay any amount of money to get that level up. Like once I
Yep.
know
Yep.
what
Totally.
came from that, holy macaroni. And that's why I knew going on this trip to America, even though I wasn't going on a retreat, I wasn't meeting up with any of you fantastic, wonderful people. I was simply going to stay in an Airbnb in Florida in a very residential area, like not a holiday place, and help my best friend and have a little vacation with my family. And yet I knew it was worth that investment. I knew it. I just knew it in my soul. And like getting to this place now from who I was in 2022,
Yep.
worlds apart. But I'm
Absolutely.
proud of myself. I'm proud of that journey. And I see my family around me that used to judge and criticize out of their own fear now actually reflect back reassurance to me when I'm panicking a bit. They go, no, but this is who you are and you've always done this and it always works out. So just keep going. And it was like, damn, I really needed that reflection from years ago me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
really nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
how it came through, in that way. Like, that was really beautiful. And it just brings little happiness to my heart that people that used to be in such fear, even though they're not quite yet, they're able to reflect that back to me when I need it
Sure.
too. And
Sure.
that really is really heartwarming.
Yeah, and again, like I want to bring this back to a humanizing space, not a dehumanizing space. Like we've all
Yeah.
felt the fear, I've
Then
definitely
I feel it still now. Yeah.
like these. It's a process. Like it pops
Right.
up. I want to say like we're not ever in fear. I feel like fear
100%.
for me helps allow me to move forward into spaces that are unknown, that are
Right.
risky, right? I have less and less of it over time as I'm kind of nourishing myself and feeling into like, oh, I don't need to be afraid of that, right? That's not a thing to be afraid of. And sometimes it just pops up and it's like, oh, look at that. That's really cute. Okay, body, how you want to move through this piece, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that we go back to regulation then. Let me see what I need to unravel with that piece. And I stay there for a period of time until it goes, oh, look, I'm going to release that. And then we're on to the next step. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 100%. And that sometimes that is what the value of having a great support network around you is.
sure.
Like, even just
Yep.
one person can be fantastic, but again, just because I am allowed to be my authentic self around people like my mum and my partner and people like that, like when I am in fear, which even this trip I'm saying, oh, I trusted and surrender. Well, I had moments of fear. It was a large amount of investment in self and my family, and it felt like there were times where I'd been questioned on it, and then the questioning, that fear seeped in a little bit, and I was like, because at first I was dead set, yeah, fine, and then I had that, oh shit, maybe should I question it? Like, is this something I should be questioning? And like that little
Yeah.
bit of
Yeah.
moment of
Yeah. Yeah.
doubt, and from reflection of others externally, but that was needed because that reflection externally, as much as I felt like it wasn't mine, obviously was a reflection of something that was there internally
Sure.
still, even though
Sure.
it wasn't on the surface, it was there
Yep.
for it to even twing any doubt within me. And so, yeah, like I said, I sat with that for a few days and I asked my close people, and their reflections were exactly what I needed to hear, reminding me of who I am and how I choose to live, and how I've never been the let's save up and do a 9 to 5 and get a
Sure.
mortgage. Like, that's never going to be me, and I never intended it to be. So, why did I take the reflection of people that choose to live that way as if that's my
That I'm gonna circle
life?
that
Like,
right
that,
there.
know
Yep.
what I mean? Like, why
Yep.
am I taking
Yep.
that advice? Like I ever chose to take any of that advice in any of the. Not that it's wrong.
Sure.
It's
Not
just
at
wrong
all.
for me. It's just wrong for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the point. I needed to sit with it and go, well, hang on a minute. Like, we've got to very similar places, and I've gone a complete opposite way to you, and yet we're not in that much difference in
Right.
terms of like the outcome overall. And that kind of leads me to believe that there is just different ways of doing the same thing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Totally. And again, like respect everybody's perspective in
Hmm.
the space. Like I know like you guys are all coming from your own spot and how you feel and how you've been working through all of your programming and everything else here. And I respect that. And also I know myself well enough now to be like, I respect that, and also that's not me or what I'm going to choose.
Right,
Right.
right.
I won't be going down
Mhm.
that path. Even with perspectives coming at me or judgments that I have now running through there, I always check my body because my body will tell me, is this an internal judgment or is this
Is
coming
this
from an
something that
outside
needed
perspective?
reflected?
There's
Yeah.
a reflection right there. I'm like, huh, okay, did I attract this internally? My body will be like, absolutely not. Not
Yeah,
mine.
but that's good. That's good that you have that discernment because I definitely had to sit with it, and I think it was a bit of both. There was their own fear, but there was also my own doubt of
Totally.
actually. Do you know what it is? Since I became a mum, I remember saying it to you. Since I became a parent, your brain shifts a little bit. Like you know me, free with the wind.
Totally.
Let's
Yep.
fucking fly with the wind. But I
Yep.
guess when you have kids, there is this sense of shit. Now, should I be like making sensible decisions now I'm a parent, you know? And I guess it's like, yeah, in some ways you should, like you should have backup and like support networks and things in place so that you
Sure.
have like safety. Obviously, that's like common sense. But should I change who I am and how I'm living now because I have children? Nah, like that's what I was like, nah.
Right.
Like there's
Right.
a lot of things you should change and there's a lot of things you do mature on. And don't get me wrong, parts of them decisions have matured, but in the overall, no, I think I still need to live with the wind and with the universal will because that is who I am. And
Yeah,
if I get a
totally.
random call in to go to America for 6 weeks, pack up, kids, we're off because
Yep.
that's where we
Yep.
go.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
think they are going to grow up to love that sense of adventure and exploration and also the ability to know they can just travel around the world anywhere they want. Like
Sure.
people used to say, "You're crazy, you're mad," and I think, "What are you on about?" But now when I look back and I think I traveled alone to America on a 9.5 hour flight with a 11-month-old, 7 months pregnant, like that is pretty wild. Like who does that shit? But I remember at the time, well, I need to go. It was like something I needed to do, so I went. And I was absolutely fine. Kids were fine, everyone was fine, and I'm glad I went. Still to this day, I'm glad I didn't miss that trip. But it
Yep.
definitely, it's removing the boundaries of what's normal, and I think
Totally.
that's what a lot of us are here to do in our community are remove the limitations, remove the boundaries, remove the restrictions, so that we can manifest, create, embody this difference in our lives if
For
we're
sure.
able to actually see other people doing it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where that embodiment piece is leading us to be able to differentiate. And like I said earlier, when my body's like, no, that's not mine. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of times when I have my own judgments. Okay, like my body's still human. Okay, it's just now to the point where she sifts through it and she's like, that's not mine. That's definitely mine. I'm gonna take a look at that. Hold on.
Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
a moment, deep breath. Okay, look through that. So I think that's a lovely process that's coming through because beforehand, with the frequencies and stuff, there's just a lot going on. There was a lot harder to see what that was like. Obviously, I wasn't fully in my body yet, and I had lots of stuff to move through.
Yeah,
Um, but now it's just that it's pretty simple, and then it's shifting my choice and my frequency from that point to being like, but no, that's not where I'm at, and I'm gonna keep doing my own thing.
yeah. Yeah, and it is a weird dance. We're still figuring it out. We're not claiming to be
Totally.
experts here. We're still figuring it out ourselves. But definitely what I've learned, if we're just like looping it back to the whole thing, like I definitely do still use the word manifest sometimes because I think it is a nice word if you like it. I don't find it a bad word. I just guess when I use it, I don't think it's like a magical spell that I'm just gonna poof create something out of thin air. I'm like when I say to someone like manifest it, then it's more take accountability. Look at where you're not choosing it.
Sure. Sure.
And I guess that's kind of my interpretation of it, that embodiment, that choice. And to myself,
Yeah,
like when
sure.
even small things when I'm in the car, I'm like, oh, I want to manifest a car parking space. But it's like, I literally do. I'm like, right, I'm going to see that specific car parking space and
Right.
know
Right.
that in this reality, I'm choosing to reserve that car parking space for me at this time. And it literally never fails me. It's never failed me for the past 15 years. Like, I've always done it. Same with a car parking ticket. Like, when I have to park somewhere and quickly run in somewhere, I'm like, no. My car's fully protected in the universal will, and it's
Yeah.
affirming
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
thing and knowing it and just like I said, practice with the small things, start
Yeah.
to embody it, start to
Yes.
work with not just like visualizing it as in like, oh, I see the space. Okay, see the car parking space. Okay, now feel what it feels like to open the car door and actually get out of that car parking space and look at your car and lock the car and know in your heart that you're parked there and that's like the God's honest truth on earth. That's embodying it into real time. Like that's you being there, living it. And so then we don't talk about a new house, a partnership, anything like that. It's
Yeah.
feeling it. Okay, feel the frequency. What does the house smell like? What does the garden smell like? What
Sure.
flowers are out there? What
Yeah.
trees are out there? What's the
Yeah.
sunset like? Make it real, make it tangible, and make it physically something you can feel within your own self. And that's where the frequency will just become of ease.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yep.
Let
I
us know how you do.
Yeah. I think also too, everybody, whatever feels good to you is what we're looking for here. We want to again give that controller back to you, take your own power back. Whatever manifesting looks like or feels like to you, or whatever word that you choose to use at any time, like go for it, feel into it, keep working with it, invest in yourself. That's another thing, like invest in yourself for the right support group, right people, whoever that might be to help support the process.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But yeah, I think that's quite a nice place to summarize it up and know that everything, is we're not saying that over the years that you might not have experienced, lower vibrational attacks and things that have been set to push you off course. Like, and we're not saying you've created literally every single tiny little bad thing that ever happened to you. Like, we're aware that there's external influences, other people's wills, other people's free will and choices and actions, but there's also karmic contracts and mutual exchanges that we all chose. So it's so much deeper than what we think and what we know, and even how we've explained it today. But just really truly like sit with the concept that we brought up today of the controller and the reality. And if you're already familiar with it, sit deeper with it and look at where you might be unhappy in certain aspects of your life and look at where your past choices
Right.
might be creating this current version now and where this version of you now can choose different for the future you. And that's really the key. Don't expect it to be instantaneous in the moment. It might be 2, 3 weeks, 2 months down the line, but it is choosing now to create that change so that
Right.
future you benefits from. But yeah, let us know in the comments how you find this whole experience. And we really, like we said, like Z says, we really would like you to keep interactive and like get involved if you
Of
have any
course. Yep.
questions or
Pop
any
them in there.
concept you'd like us to dive into. We'd really like that. And we're going to be doing a lot of this nervous system regulation, nervous
Sure.
system
Yep.
embodiment and expansion in the retreat we run next year. So if you are interested in signing up for that and registering your interest, then please do either comment below, get in touch with Z, or get in touch with myself. Um, and I'll put the email below as well.
Yep. All right, everybody. We love you.
Peace,
Thanks.
man.
Bye.